Okay, it's the weekend after the last class. It's the beginning of the break. I am feeling good. I've had my tomato juice for the day, and all the headaches are gone. I won't explain that any further, but let's move forward. What I'd like to do for this first, hopefully short video is describe to you that one question on the last quiz that seemingly most students got wrong, and I'd like to do it in a way that I'm hoping, through the dream-like state I was in over the weekend, came to me as a way of teaching it so that it'll be forever embedded in your singular side grate. If there is such a part to the brain, I'm not sure. Maybe there is no such name to the brain, but if you don't have one, you may have one after watching this video. Okay, so here we go. The issue is inventory is purchased for a price greater than the book value that's shown on the subsidiary's balance sheet. So if this is the inventory line items, when this parent company here purchases the inventory, it was on the books for 180, but in our problem it was really worth 190. So in our elimination entries, we would be treating this like any other asset. It would be part of our A entry. So I'll label it here an A entry, where we debit the asset in order to increase its value, like we would do for equipment or a patent, or and we would do for goodwill in the A entry as well. So we increase the asset here, in this case inventory. Now the emphasis is on the word asset. Inventory is an asset, and in the purchase price that the parent came up with for the subsidiary, the purchase price included a premium of $10,000 above the book value of the subsidiary's inventory. So it's included in this number, and therefore the credit for that $10,000 of the A entry, like any other adjustment of assets, of differences in assets for the purchased price, it goes against the either debit or credit the investment account, as we see here. This should be straightforward at this point. If it's not, rewind the tape, check your notes, check the textbook, but this is a typical A entry. Again, inventory is an asset. Now when we have it as an asset of, let's say, buildings here, when we have it there, if the 10,000 was a difference in the buildings, and it certainly could have been, then we would have been told that it has a life of, say something like 5 years, and we would depreciate $10,000 over 5 years, hence $2,000 per year, and that would add to the depreciation expense each and every year, because the inventory in this case is valued more than the book value. And you should remember all of the reasons why we do that. Now we have the situation of this is inventory. And in the case of inventory, which is an asset like buildings and equipment, it has a life. And with inventory, the life is assumed to be, for the right reasons, less than 1 year. So while the asset of equipment and building, if we were doing that here, might have a life of 5 years, or the patent might have a life of 10 or 15 years, and it gets amortized and depreciated, inventory, which has a life of less than 1 year, we're going to, quote, amortize it in less than 1 year. And the less than 1 year is the year of purchase, the purchase of the subsidiary. So it's going to be done at the end of the first year of acquisition. It's not going to be carried over. It's not going to be depreciated in future years. It's just written off in the end of the first year. And to do that, what we do with building, if it was a building, what we would have been doing up here is adding to depreciation expense. In this case, we'd be adding $10,000 because it's the whole amount that's coming off, and we'd be adding that to expense and reducing the net income from the consolidated by having by having actually written off the $10,000, which would be an expense above and beyond the expenses shown by the subsidiary on a book value basis. That's all well and good, except for one thing. This is inventory, so we're not going to show it as amortization. we're simply going to add it to the cost of goods sold, and therefore that's where it's going to show up. It's going to show up here as a debit to cost of goods sold. The same net effect happens. Income is reduced because there's an additional expense above and beyond the book value expenses as recorded by Samson, the subsidiary in this case. And just like depreciation, it reduces the overall consolidated net income by the amount. This entry, by the way, is equivalent to the E entry of your SAIDE entries from the textbook, where it's the depreciation or amortization, and the offsetting credit, similar to what we do for the E entry in the textbook. In this case, it would be to the inventory. Otherwise, it would have been to the equipment and buildings or the accumulated depreciation of equipment and buildings. So here we just simply credit, and that becomes our E entry over here, balancing out the E up here with the E down here. And the inventory, the difference in the inventory is now gone when we get out here. There's no additional inventory because it's been sold off as part of the cost of goods sold. It becomes part of the cost of goods sold here, reducing the consolidated net income. Now, if that ain't clear and a great explanation, then I don't know, I guess if it ain't, you can send me an email and send dollars to me for, I don't know, for rehabilitation or something like that, and we'll see if I can come up with a better way to exclaim it. Exclaim it? Maybe the weekend hasn't worn off after all. I'll go back to trying to recuperate. At any rate, I think you get the picture. It's no different than any other asset valuation. It just doesn't have a life to it. It gets taken care of in the year of purchase. The same thing could have been true. The inventory could have been less than the book value, and just like we would have had negative depreciation there, you would have had a negative adjustment to the cost of goods sold, and it would have increased the consolidated net income instead of decreasing it. So I hope that clears it up. If not, really, truly, do send me an email with questions, and I look forward to what's going to happen. You'll see it in my explanation. We're going to have a few more of these short videos during the week, just for your viewing pleasure.